basically a direct award is a process that's fully PCR compliant, like everything we do. We have zero challenges in anything, new frameworks or any projects that go through. So it's all legal opinions, and a number of central bodies like HMRC, DWP and GPA, they all use direct awards with us. The benefit from a client's perspective about a direct award is linking up the relationship from a client to a contractor. Like all things, when you're doing buildings, there's always a risk attached and everything else. And when we look at procurement, there's also risk in procurement. So when a client does a procurement process, like a further competition or an open market tender, there's lots of risks, because the risk of challenge, the risk of getting a contractor they've never worked with before. So doing a direct award links up the client with a need or a want. Usually their standing orders mean they have to have competition. But if there's they have the governance to move away from that, if there's a need or a want, such as existing relationship, they're up against it on timings, cost advice, site's tricky, they can move to a direct award, and it's linking up the relationship from a contractor with a client.
So they can effectively, I won't say try before you buy, that's probably not what it is, but it gives them the chance to dip the toes in, test it, make sure it meets everything, whether they've had a relationship or not, but if they haven't, to really understand it and get that early involvement in.
Yeah, it is,
right?
yeah. The early engagement, early contractor involvement is massive.
Yeah.
Especially we're in an element now when we've got cost increase and fluctuations, getting the buildability and the cost advice from the contractors is paramount.
I mean, obviously it's the major work. So,
yep.
So if you have a 5 or 10% variation on a small contract, it's not a big number.
It is.
But on a major one, it's a very big number.
It
can be.
Yeah, because the average project that goes through the major works £33 million.
Okay,
so the big sizable scheme. So
yeah.
When you've got, as you said, the cost increase it's accentuated because of the value of the projects. Yeah. So getting the contractors in early really helps it. And how we structure it is that the client will engage through a direct award with the intention to award the build contract subject to approvals, cabinet reports and everything else. But what it does, it allows the contractor to sit side by side with the client through a detailed PCSA process, design it from stage 0, RIBA stage 0 to stage 4 with a full cost breakdown, fully open book, fully collaborative, for the client to go, that's my perfect value for money statement, I've got all the details I need, plus with experience and all the, the delivery team. That put then to the basic final approval at board, and then they move into build contract as well.
Yeah. Okay. So that's DA,
yep.
direct award, but for projects or clients where they want to have some external competition, or some additional competition, we do still have the further comp route. Is that right?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. So, like everything we do, we've got different routes: single stage, 2-stage. But the stage before that, what we do is we assess the numbers. So what we do is we get involved from a PAG perspective in very detailed conversations with the client, looking at the project, looking at risks, looking at the contract, looking at the social value, and what we do is we advise the client to pull a document set together, so we can advise them on how to procure best to get the outcomes that they want. So then what we do is we assess the numbers through an expression of interest. So we pull a detailed pack together with the client about all the scheme, what it's about, form of contract, the scope, any deliverables from the tender. It's quite a detailed pack. And then we go out to all the people on the framework in that region and that project value, that lot value, and we assess their expression of interest, and we go out to all 9 contractors.
So you build that competition.
Yeah. So we go out to all 9, and if the client says, well, we need 4 bids, we go out to all 9, but we review the 6 from the core first, and if we get the numbers from the core, we don't ask the reserves to come in.
Right.
But if we're short on numbers, then the reserves are added in, and that's all the reserves. So ultimately, the client has a process of getting the right number, not too few, not too many.
Yeah.
Likewise, when contractors are bidding, it's good for them because they know that they're going to be up against a few, but not too many.
Yeah.
And obviously not knowing that it's not too few on the numbers, so that the procurement process doesn't fall down in effect.
Yeah, so it's good for all parties.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and when we go through actually the tendering process, we identify how best to procure for the client. If it's going to be the traditional single stage, fixed price sum, which in this current market is very far between, we advise them to say, look, you need to do get to RIBA stage 4, bill of quantities, and we detail out why the benefits of, because it's basically robust evaluation, they're getting like for like bids back. But we also do a lot of things like 2-stage, so we get in the early involvement as much as we can from the contractors. We can bespoke it as well, so we can do hybrid, so we can ask for basically outline costs for steel, timbers, substructures, claddings, all that sort of stuff, outline costs, so we can try and bespoke the procurement for the client's requirements for their governance. And we do all that to the expression of interest, and then we assess and then move on into the tender,
Okay.
basically.